Though the game of ringette is often played by girls and women, dads play a huge role in the sport. Whether it's in the stands, on the bench, or in the boardroom, dads are crucial to the operations of the game. This Father's Day, we will be joined by 4 ringette dads for a roundtable discussion to get their views on the game, how it's impacted their lives, and how we can make improvements. My name is Marian, and today I'll be joined by Brian and Abby Breckles, Harry and Teagan Hirsimaki, Roy, Krystina and Mackenzie Reedon, and Brent, Katie, and Kristen Bunting. All right, guys, thank you all so much for joining me today. Let's just jump straight into the questions. So you're all ringette dads and got involved or remain in the sport because of your daughters. What parenting skills have you been able to apply in your positions in ringette?
I think that both from an officiating standpoint, obviously, we're not always going to be perfect, right? We as officials, we are going to make mistakes. And that's why there's 2 of them on the ice together and being able to confer with one another on something. And, whether it's a goal that, and we've seen it happen, a goal that you miss or your partner misses, I'm just using an example, but, and then reflecting that onto the coaching side and recognizing that the officials aren't perfect. As a coach, we're not perfect. And as we proceed through a game, the number of decisions we need to make as a coach counters with what the on-ice official has to make as decisions as you move through the game. So I think that it's definitely taught me, and Abby's been a big part of this, I'd say, in the last few years, of being respectful and being patient and helping and seeing that side. You might not always agree with your, coaching partner or a suggestion a player makes or the on-ice official, but at the end of the day, as a coach, you have decisions you need to make. As a parent, you have decisions you need to make. And when I'm officiating on the ice, there's decisions we need to make. And being respectful of those decisions.
From parenting, it's probably the other way around, I guess. I would say I was a extremely competitive person coming into this. And I had to learn being attempting to be an athlete yourself is one thing. Having to mentor people as they become athletes is another thing. So I learned patience. I mean, I've said this at work. I've said ringette has helped me throughout my life. I've developed a lot of patience. I think this, running certain programs in Mississauga, you're never going to be 100% right? There'll be people who love it and people who hate it. I've learned to navigate that part in all areas of my life. So it's been reciprocal, both sides. I've learned from ringette how to navigate being a parent and also different areas of my life. And I try to apply those things back into ringette.
Harry, this next question is for you. You've been pretty vocal about your support for girls and women in ringette. How has your involvement in ringette changed your perspective or your views on women in sport in general?
I appreciate it more. I mean, if I had a choice, I go to a Laurentian basketball game, I always go to the women's game first. And I'm one of the 30 people that are in the stands watching the hundreds come in to watch the men play because the men are an exciting team. But I'm there to watch the women, good, bad. I appreciate the women's sport more. I'll go watch, girls basketball championships. I'll go watch a little bit of the women's university hockey. I appreciate it more. I think just because I've been part of it and I understand some of the dynamics that women have a lot better than I do with the men.
Oftentimes we hear a lot about women and moms in ringette, but this month we were really focused on kind of getting dads involved in the conversation. This was largely in part due to the fact that I actually had a ringette dad come up to me and say that he felt like they were kind of missing from the conversation. And so I wanted to use this opportunity to give you guys a voice. So straight from your mouths, Dad, tell us, why do you think the involvement of fathers in ringette is so important?
I think the support from the fathers, I've known people who've put so much time and effort into their sons on the sporting side and not necessarily done it with the daughters. But you have to put the same amount of effort into the sons as you do, or the same amount of effort into the daughters as you do the sons, because they can all be great athletes. Whether they're men or women, they can all be great athletes. And I know, my wife was a fantastic athlete, and these kids I hope are going to be just like her. And if I didn't put the time and effort into them, I don't know what they would be. They would probably be What would you be doing if you didn't do Ringette?
I would probably be on my phone right now.
There you go. But I think with men in the sport, it adds, and the fathers have to be, there has to be a buy-in from the fathers to really say, hey, this is fantastic, and understand that, girls can be fantastic athletes as well.
I think families are very important. I think a lot of times, and I'll be honest with you, when we first start, a lot of times in a sport that's dominated by girls, the dads bring the kids in and then they start to take a back seat, right? It's not competitive enough, I don't enjoy it, or whatever. But I think families are important, especially in the Ringette community. And so the moms kind of naturally gravitate toward it because it's a female sport. I think having the dads there creates that family environment. Many people have said to me they enjoy the family environment of Ringette. So without us, there's no family.
Now, we all love the game of Ringette, but I always think that there's room for improvement. So dads, name one area of Ringette that you think needs improvement. And if you have a solution, please share that with us as well.
I think fundamental development at the house league has to be better. And it's for multiple reasons. The girls will, if they are fundamentally sound, they will enjoy the game more. And also their parents, their dads, more importantly, if they play well, then the dads will enjoy the game more because their daughter is developing and improving. I want to get away from the parents that, well, this sport is so boring at the house league level. Well, it is boring because they're learning how to play at the elite level. So unless they start learning the fundamentals or playing at the elite level, I think everybody should play in an elite team, whether it's only 1 year, but the fundamentals you learn, the amount of fundamentals you learn at that level, the structure that you have is completely different from the house league. And you sort of try to find an even balance between a structured team and having fun and being with your friends and, enjoying yourself. And you try to, when you're on a structured team, you're having all kinds of fun with your friends still, but you're all going in the same direction. You're all pulling the same direction. So I think fundamentally in the house league, we should be able to, or should be better at teaching the fundamentals so that their improvement is more visible and their enjoyment is going to increase with every bit that they enjoy.
The promotional side and maybe the educational side, getting into schools, and when I say getting into schools, it's more the awareness, teaching about the sport in the schools, teaching about the sport locally. There's just got to be a better way of promoting it. There's still places where you go and they have no idea what Ringette is. There's 25, 30,000 players in Canada, whatever the numbers are. I can't remember the numbers, 10 or 12,000 in Ontario. But there's still pockets and places where you go that they don't know about Ringette, or if they do, their comment is, oh, that sport still exists, or it's such a regional sport. So the educational side, I think, is really one of the biggest things that we can do to promote the sport, and it needs a lot of work, I think, at our end.
There is a level for everybody in Ringette. If you want to play only house league, you can start off there and a non-competitive, and then you can get very competitive. What I think is missing from Ringette as a whole is probably the educational component about being we use the term elite athlete, and I've heard people, oh, well, she's an elite athlete or she's an elite athlete. And I know elite athletes. I mean, I know national program people. And I always say, listen, when you're telling your 11-year-old that she's an elite athlete and the other 11-year-old is not an elite athlete, that creates your initial divide in Ringette. For me, I think that the educational piece, and something I'm hoping to do with Mississauga Ringette this year, is really have people take a step back and understand there's multi-levels to becoming. You don't just step on and because you're the best 9-year-old, you're an elite athlete. So I think that's what we need to do more.
The biggest area for me that I think needs improvement is a quality level in our coaching. Obviously, I'm close to all of that right now. And the reason that I got involved with Kitchener Ringette was to be able to help people understand how to teach the fundamentals of the game. I've been so fortunate. I mentioned Sherry Markle earlier, and I've been so fortunate the last 2 years to have Lindsay Vivian with me. Lindsay played in the NRL. She's a great local young lady who's been a coach, and really, truly, I mean, yes, I've probably mentored Lindsay in some ways, but she has taught me so much about coaching the game that, and that's where I want to see is that, and I constantly encourage females to get back in and get involved. You know, the commitment, as an example, might be too much for them to actually step in and coach. But, you know, maybe they can volunteer with the team and only come out to, be registered properly with Ringette Ontario, but be coming out to help teams on the ice, right, for their practices and helping the coaches. Because what we typically see is an eager father who knows nothing about the game, is trying to learn the game, right, at the same time as teaching it and coaching it. And when you can get females who have played the game, and as an adult, as you can help, and I'll just pick like a 15 or 14 or 16-year-old and help them be able to share their knowledge with that U10 team that they're coaching or whatever age group it is, I think just has such incredible impact with those girls, and how much they as players truly appreciate that opportunity to learn from a female.
All right, dads, now's the time to make your best pitch. What would you say to a dad or a parent that may be skeptical about registering their daughter for Ringette?
A lot of people that come into it that have put a premium on education say to me from different parts of the country that there's no ice, say to me, well, I don't want her playing that much Ringette because it's going to affect her school. And I tell people all the time, my kids are A students. So it helps, the sport itself helps with your organization. It helps with, your leadership. And I've seen many kids go through Ringette become fantastic human beings at 20 years old. Ringette is more than just the playing of the sport. There's kind of a lifestyle behind it. I mean, and you get that in other sports, but Ringette seems to draw those people who are community minded, who look out for each other, especially in this day and age. I think that the Ringette community is a stronger community. You know, it's an inclusive sport. Because honestly, it's the first step. If you come from a different country, it's the first step to acclimating yourself into the culture. You have to do it at some point, and the sport itself won't take away from anything you're trying to do.
It's a matter of what do your kids want to do, and how much fun. Where are their friends playing? What are they doing? And my girls have a lot of friends from their school that joined with them in Learn to Skate, and they're in their 7th year. My kids are 10 years old now, and they've been playing since, and they're best friends. And, they probably never would have got into Ringette if they hadn't followed my 2 daughters and joined the sport. So, you build friendships.
I think that anyone who might be skeptical, the opportunity for your daughter to learn and develop her skill set and understand what it is and how it is to play as a team and contribute to a team. One of the unique things, about Ringette, yes, they learn to skate, and they learn to shoot, and they can learn to defend, and all the other elements that come into it. But I really think that, if a dad wants to give their daughter an opportunity to just continue to develop, and granted, they could play basketball as an example and have that same type of development in a true team sport. But I think that there's a special element, we alluded to this earlier, that Ringette brings in, because that ability for one strong player not to be able to dominate the game.
I think they should go into it with an open mind and not compare it to hockey, for instance. Hockey is one thing, Ringette is another thing. And if you learn to appreciate the sport for what it is and not what it isn't because you're comparing it to something else, whether it's being able to go to university with a hockey scholarship and not being able to do it with Ringette. We don't play for those goals. Those are the gravy we get because we play the sport, we're participating in the sport. It's not because we have those long-term goals. I think there's a lot of things that they could learn by just enjoying the game, learning the game and enjoying the game for what it is. Whether it's going to watch the AAAs or the NRLs or the AA's play while you're at a tournament, not just go back to the hotel and watch NHL on TV.
That was awesome. Thank you so much for your responses. We've actually reached the end of our roundtable discussion, so thank you all so much for joining me. Fans, family, parents at home, if you'd like to hear more from our Ringette dads and their wonderful daughters, you can watch their complete interviews on our YouTube channel at Ringette Ontario. Happy Father's Day, everyone, and stay safe.